Ready? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa, Padavajaka Ashtotar of Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Padavajaka Acharya Ashtotar of Sri Srimad, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, let's see if I get this right now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, I have text 44. Is that right? You don't know.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, we have the voice of God. So, okay. On this 7th day of March, 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 2 entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, text 44 at the bottom of page 111. Bhogaishwarya Pasaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi Samadhau Navadiyate Bhogaishwarya Pasaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi Samadhau Navadiyate Bhogaishwarya Pasaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi Samadhau Navadiyate Bhogaishwarya Pasaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi Samadhau Navadiyate Bhogaishwarya Pasaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi Samadhau Navadiyate Bhogaishwarya Pasaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi Samadhau Navadiyate Bhogaishwarya Pasaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi Samadhau Navadiyate Bhogaishwarya Pasaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi Samadhau Navadiyate Bhogaishwarya Pasaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi Samadhau Navadiyate. Zoomland. Okay.
Bhogaishwarya Prasaktanam
Bhogaishwarya Pasaktanam
Taya Parita Chetasam
Taya Parita Chetasam
Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi
Vyavasayatmaka Buddhi
Samadhau Navadiyate.
Samadhau Navadiyate. Bhoga, to material enjoyment, Aishwarya, and opulence, Prasaktanam, for those who are attached, Taya, by such things, Aparita Chetasam, bewildered in mind, Vyavasaya Atmika, fixed in determination, Buddhi, devotional service to the Lord, Samadhau, in the controlled mind, never, Vidhiyate, does take place. Translation. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Purport. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti, says, Samyag adiyate smin atma tattva yatatmyam. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyments and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So let's look at the context. That's always important. You may recall back in text 41, where this idea of Vyavasayatmaka buddhi is introduced. And Krishna says those who are on this path of devotional service are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Now, how in the culture that Krishna is speaking in, well, how does that many-branched intelligence come about? Text 42 and 43. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say there is nothing more than this. So this is the Bhoga and Aishwarya, and the very phrases there, Bhoga Aishwarya Gatim Pati, at the very end, that Krishna is speaking about in today's verse. In each culture, there is this different set of Bhoga and Aishwarya. You know, in those days, they didn't have all of these panoply of sense gratifications that we can enjoy, right? And that they were so available. I mean, meaning that the display of them to attract the mind is available to everybody. Little kids, 11 years old, they have a cell phone, and I don't even, you know, they can hit the certain numbers and see things that I wouldn't have even dreamed of at that age, 11 years old or whatever it is. So it's much easier today to be completely bewildered by Bhoga and Aishwarya. But in those days also, there's all of this, you know, in the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, a description of the heavenly planets, and they're real. You know, it's much more intelligent, really, if you're after Bhoga and Aishwarya, to perform some serious sacrifices in this life and perform austerities, and then go to the heavenly planets for, what, 1 million years, and enjoy a youthful body and you know, good environment and all kinds of enjoyments like that. But that's not going to help you get back to Godhead or solve the problems of life. Because to do that, we have to come to this point of Vyavasayatmaka buddhi, where we're one-pointed, as described here. What's the Nirukti say? That samadhi is defined as fixed mind in terms of looking for self-realization, if I recall. Yeah, that's the sign. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, Nirukti says, samyagadiyate, etc. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. So where do you find that? That doesn't happen automatically. One has to come in touch with someone or some source of knowledge that presents to you this whole other field of endeavor where you can really attain eternal happiness. There's no eternal happiness as soon as the body is the vehicle of your happiness. And that's what Bhoga and Aishwarya is all about. Bhoga means material happiness, means enjoyment of the senses. So like the second thing you learn when you come in the temple is don't eat Bhoga. That's Bhoga, Prabhu. It hasn't been offered to the deities. Meaning that if you eat it, you're just doing it for your own sense gratification, for your own Bhoga. So that eating is such an important aspect of human life. And it can often, if you don't know, you can easily go to hell just by eating meat and all kinds of horrible things. And even if you don't eat meat, Prabhupada says in Isha Upanishad, you read it carefully, one shouldn't be proud of being a vegetarian, you know, because that's also attachment. And it's also living beings, you know, you're pulling up the tomatoes or something, you know. So, but of course it's much better than eating meat, which causes so much suffering. So the idea is that the Krishna, this verse, I always, when I first encountered it, it really struck home. In order to be serious about devotional service, you have to be able to concentrate, beginning with concentrating on the holy name, you know, and then to apply that concentration and that intelligence to more and more of your life. So everything is ultimately, hopefully, in the realm of devotional service. Well, clearly, Bhoga, and if you're prasaktanam, if you're too much attached to your personal sense gratification and are bewildered by and opulence, which buys the personal sense gratification, then where is there any question of Vyavasayatmaka buddhi? Taya apudita chetasam, the mind is pulled away by that. And that's the society we live in. It's just one thing after another that people become attached to, and you reject that. You go to here, sankalpa, vikalpa. It's very, very dark age. So to fight that, we need a way of interacting with the absolute that involves all the senses and the mind. So the mind and the senses can be engaged and attracted to the transcendence rather than to the modes of nature. And that's what the science of bhakti is all about, the science of devotional service. So how to get free from this bhoga and aishwarya? This is the attachment. And Krishna will describe that in the remaining parts of this chapter. Okay, any comments, questions? Bhakti Dimitri, we need a mic. Do we have the other mic activated? That's sitting over there, dormant. Okay.
So, when the mind is there's a purport. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi, and samadhi is never possible for a person interested in material sense enjoyment. But if you are in a state of samadhi, you can still have material desires, and eventually, be influenced by them. Is that correct?
Well, the thing is, desires they can be dormant. In other words, you may not even think, you think, I'm doing pretty good. I'm going along and I'm not getting distracted. But then a certain combination of, comes along, and your mind is, dragged away. Krishna talks about that. He says even one of the senses that the mind fixes on can draw it away, just like a strong wind can take a boat out into sea. So we should never get too confident. This is one of Maya's tricks. I got it pretty well together. I'm following principles, getting up early. But then you get lax in controlling the mind, because it's a very tricky thing. And they're very deep-seated, many, many lifetimes. So that's why, prayer is so important. Chanting prayerfully. I've often mentioned this, and it's in the Bhagavatam also. How this age of Kali, which is so dangerous for those who want to try to follow some yoga or some spiritual practice. It's right there in the first chapter of Bhagavatam, first canto. Prayanapashaksabe kalavasmin yugejana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadruta. So that's us. First of all, we don't live that long. 100 years, who lives 100 years, And even if you live into your 80s or 90s, do you have your faculties, that you can actually use? So really, you've got a few decades of real useful life that you can utilize. So that's the first thing. And even if you, and then manda means you're very lazy generally in the matter of spiritual realization. I mean, yes, we've made, there are thousands of devotees, serious devotees all over the world, but there's 7.5 billion people. It's still a drop in the bucket. It's just that it's a very difficult age. So that's another thing, manda. And even if you're interested, you're so many cheaters and bogus yogis who are very ready to cheat you and take your money. So you get misguided. And lazy, misguided, and unlucky, and always disturbed. So what chance do we have? So the point is that so this age is it's a difficult age, Kali. But then there's two verses that are very there's more than two. The two come to mind that really are encouraging for us in the Kali Yuga. One is this Kalir Doshi Nide Rajan Astiyeko Mahadgunan Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Bhajet. That this age of Kali is an ocean of faults. This is just a few of them mentioned in the first chapter. In the 12th canto, there's whole chapters of what happens in this age. We don't live very long, mercy goes down, truth goes down, all kinds of things. And then at the end of that, he does it, but, this is Shukadev speaking directly to Purgit. This age of Kali is an ocean of fault, but there's one very special quality in this age. Just by Sankirtan of the holy name. Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangam Paramajat. Now Mukta Sangha, think about what that means. It means you get free from the attachments that come with this evil age. Mukta Sangha and Param Brajet, you go to the Supreme Abode. So this process of chanting, which is our essential process, is completely capable of taking us out of this age and out of this bondage of material life. But it requires that we chant in desperation. You know, to feel oneself lower than the blade of grass, be tolerant as a tree, and to be always chanting in that mood of supplication. Please engage me in your service. I've been so long in the service of Maya. Now I realize I want to engage in your service, but I'm still attracted. So chant with great enthusiasm and desperation, and that prayerful chanting, plus so many beautiful prayers that we can take from Shastra, and on the basis of those we can even have specialized prayers that the prayerfulness articulates a desire that you have. And you have faith that the person or the entity that you're praying to has the power to fulfill that desire. And in that mood you can pray. And therefore it said that, this 11th canto, Kaling Sabhaji Antyaya Guna Gyasara Bhaganaha Yatta Sankirtanena Va Sarva Swarto Vilabhyate. Again, it's about Sankirtan. It says, those who are really intelligent and Aryans and know the value of things, they worship this Kali Yuga. This Kali Yuga in which Lord Chaitanya appeared. Because here in this Kali Yuga, just by the practice of congregational chanting of the holy name, all of one's desires of the soul, the needs of the soul, called svarta. Remember Pralasma, Natebedu svartakatim Vishnu. That those who are completely absorbed and intoxicated with material life, they have no idea what the goal of life is. That is Vishnu, that is Krishna, that is devotional service. But we have that idea. So we're fortunate. And that's the truth. So if one wants that goal of the soul, svarta, fulfilled, then you can perform Sankirtan in this age especially. It's especially empowered because Lord Chaitanya appeared here. So we should take advantage of that. But yes, if you're in samadhi, that's good. But you should know that deep down inside, you know, those desires are waiting to grab you. You know, and then we'll see through the modes of nature. That's in the next verse. So we're in good shape as long as we're sincere.
And being in samadhi doesn't mean that it's purifying you. It's just more like a focus on understanding.
Well, here is defining it as when the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Now we know that in the 6th chapter, there's another definition of samadhi. Krishna gives a more elaborate definition. And there it's the traditional one, the mind is completely fixed on Krishna in the heart. He defines it that way. And you experience this boundless happiness through transcendental senses in terms of the intelligence. And having gained that, he thinks there's no greater gain, and he's completely free from all miseries. It's quite a description. And although that's in the chapter on dhyana yoga, that is, those benefits and those experiences are there for the fully absorbed, you know, devotee, very advanced devotee. So that's something we can aspire for, and we have so many ways that we can absorb our mind, in the holy name. That's the first thing, in the deity, in the service, and everything can be refined. The cooking, how you're cleaning, how you're walking, you know, everything can be fully absorbed. All right, let's go on. So now this is advice to us. Of course, this is to Arjun, but it's also advice to us. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjana Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. The Vedas deal mainly with the subjects of the 3 modes of material nature. O Arjun, become transcendental to these 3 modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Purport. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the 3 modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning there is Brahma Jigyasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom, advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely the Karma Kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas, as the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata. The Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities, such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth, and by tolerating such dualities become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. So this is an interesting statement, that the Vedas he says, mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. So I've never studied that portion of the Vedas, but apparently it's longer than even those Upanishads and the Puranas that deal with transcendence. The Upanishads also, not the Upanishads, but the Puranas, are also divided into three different categories. Those that are meant for those in the mode of ignorance, in the mode of passion, and the mode of goodness. Now, of course, the Bhagavad Purana is meant for those in the mode of goodness. It's the last Purana and the final Purana. And it is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So Vedanta means the end of knowledge. The end of knowledge is not some extraordinary opulence in the material world or sense gratification. The end of knowledge is giving you the description of transcendence and the means to achieve it. And that's what the Vedanta Sutra really says. It's a misinterpretation to say that the final goal of Vedanta is impersonal realization, Brahman realization, merging into the Absolute. So the Bhagavad Purana is understood to be the natural commentary on the Brahma Sutra or the Vedanta Sutra, written by the same author. Prabhupada always understood, and he would know what it means, right? Better than anyone. So what is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Purana? Pure devotional service to Krishna. 10th canto, right? Krishna Lila. So that's the final goal of Vedic knowledge is bhakti. And that makes the word Bhakti Vedanta. Sound familiar? Okay. Any questions on this section or this verse and purport? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Mike. All right. Maybe you hold on to it. You hold on to it. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Krishna. So, Prabhu, before coming to this life, I'm assuming we went to various species. Various human life is very important. We come through so much. But were we ever human? Sure. Before this human life?
I can't say for sure, but it's very likely. But we blew it.
So if we were, then were we in with Krishna, or were we with the same life, material life?
Well, this is a quote from Srila Prabhupada. Once we were with Krishna in his Leela, or sport. So yes, once we were all with Krishna. But that can be a long, long time ago. And we've lost that, we came down, we became Brahma, but we didn't go back to Godhead, and we came down, the human form, and then we didn't fulfill the opportunity of the human form, and we lost that. And there's 8,400,000 species. So who can trace out how long we've been wandering in this material world? Brahmande Brahmade Kon, Lord Chaitanya says to Rupa Goswami in the 19th chapter of Madhya Lila. Brahmande Brahmade Kon, Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai, Bhakti Lata Bij. Very important verse. Brahmanda Brahmite means wandering within the universe. Did anyone analyze what Brahmanda means? Do you know what Brahmanda? This universe is compared to an egg. Because it's like hollow inside, and it's got a hard shell of the earth. There's all these barriers, that are built up around the inside of the universe. Every universe is like that. So we're inside, and we've been wandering up and down the different planets and the different species, as you mentioned, for who knows how long. But this fortunate soul, Bhagyavan Jeev, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, that's important, the order. The Guru is the person who gives you the mercy of connects you to Krishna. And by the mercy of both of them, you get the seed of bhakti is planted. The seed of interest that you need to then water with the water of hearing and chanting, basically. So we've been around and around and around, who knows how many times. But as Prabhupada famously said, what's the point of trying to trace that out? We don't. It's sufficient enough to know that we're trapped here by our attractions for the modes of nature and the pleasure that are there, and the way out is through this bhakti yoga process.
So, did we ask Krishna? I mean, maybe we don't have to, but did we ask Krishna we want these sort of life? And he said, like usually God says, "Tathastu," you get what you want. So, did we ask him that we want to live separately? We want to,
It's not presented like that. I mean, Krishna wants our best benefit, just like a father. The child is obstinate. No, I want to go out and then, an 11-year-old boy, I want to travel 100 miles away, and I want to do. And the father says, no, that's not good for you. You're going to suffer. So I want to do it, So, or maybe an 18-year-old, And what can the father do? So, all right, I'll try to protect you as much as possible, but what can I do? The example is more intimate when he talks about a little child. Doesn't know. He sees a fire, in the fireplace. And he wants to touch it. I said, no. And he said, yeah, no. Okay, touch it. So he touches it, and he learns for the rest of his life, oh, it's hot. Never again. You see? So we're in that position. We're in the fire of material life, the three modes of nature. But Maya is so skillful that she, although there's obviously suffering here, she's always giving us some idea of how we can solve that suffering. Notice that this verse contains this word, yoga kshema. Yoga kshema is a standard phrase that means your necessities of life, food, and etc. And kshema, your security. You may have security, but there's no food. What's the point? You may have food, but there's people attacking you, then you're still not safe. So both are necessary. And I don't know if it rings a bell. Krishna promises in the 8th chapter, I think it's Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Yejana Pashate. Yeah, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Yejana Pashapashate Tesham Nityabhyaktanam Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham. He promises to carry, for those who are in samadhi, whose minds are fixed on me, Ananyas, without anything else. Ananyas Chinma Yejana Payupasate, are worshipping me sincerely. Tesham Nitya, who are always linked to me in yoga. Yes, 3 lines. To them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. But that is one of the symptoms of surrender. To be confident that Krishna will provide one's yoga and kshema. It's phrased this way in the, I think by Rupa Goswami, whoever wrote the verse about Sharanagati. What does it say? Pratikulyasya varjanam anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshisyati vishvaso gopit vevadanam tata atmanikshepa karpanye shadvadha shadanagati. These 6 aspects of surrender. The first is to accept everything favorable for devotional service. That's a big demand to make. We're ready to accept A, B, C, but D, forget it. And E, it's out of the question. So you can fill in the blanks. But the more that we can accept what's favorable, and the next is to reject what's unfavorable. Those are 2 aspects of surrender in any discipline. You want to become an expert violin player, you have to accept what's favorable. You have to go to the teacher. You have to hold it like this. You have to, listen. Whatever. There's a method, and you have to give up what's unfavorable. You can't be a boxer and also a violin player at the same time. Your hands have to. So, But then Rakshasati Vishwaso Goptadve. Rakshasati means, and this is, we find this in the Vrindavan Leela, be confident of Krishna's protection and Krishna's maintenance. That's yogic kshema. You see? The Vrijvasis didn't know anything else but Krishna. When there was any trouble, they called out to him in helplessness. Perfectly. And they were maintained by him, of course. So but as far as how we got here, Prabhupada once presented it in a very amazing way. He said, we wanted to come here at one point, and Krishna tried to convince us not to come. So that's what he said. But we were stubborn. We're just like the child that wants to touch the fan. Another one is the fan. Pull out the plug. Prabhupada had this experience with one of his children. The little boy's on his lap, and the fan is keeping him cool, and he puts his finger there. No. And his friend was with him. And he said, okay, unplug the fan, let it come down to almost nothing, and then let him touch it. He says, oh. And that's, he learned.
So was it an attraction from Maya Devi to all of us, which brought us here?
Well, it's not that Maya Devi can reach into the spiritual world and attract us. But we got the model for trying to enjoy from Krishna. The point is, Krishna's enjoying so well, and he's getting all this service, and somehow or other, because we're Tatastha Shakti, I mentioned this in this morning, Tatastha means on the border. We can choose to be absorbed in the material energy, or we can choose to stay absorbed in the internal energy. And because we have free will, this is something Krishna gives us. He has unlimited independence. He can do anything he wants at any time he wants. Right? Any one of his senses can act like the other senses. So we have minute independence. And that independence basically consists in staying within devotional service and serving Krishna's desires and enjoying the bliss of happiness of bhakti. Which is the basic thing that's going on in the spiritual world. 3/4 of the living entities, they never come here. They don't even know what it is. We're the 1/4, within them, which are trillions and uncounted zillions, who have come here and are suffering. So we made the choice of turning our attention. You see, everything is attention. And that's why it said, Bhayam Dutiya Benaveshatak said, Ishat Apetasya. Isha is the Lord, the controller. Apetasya means turning away. And so what's away? The material energy. We became absorbed in the dualities of this Vidya and Abhinaveshita. And this is the source of fear, because suddenly we forget about our protector. We've decided to go it alone. We've left home and gone off to San Francisco or whatever, to roam the streets and try to enjoy. So, and then in that forgetfulness, we have no clue of how we can solve our suffering. So that this human form of life alone, which we may have visited uncounted times, now, because we've come in touch with the pure devotee and the knowledge of what's what, we have a chance to apply it. And yes, there is austerity, there is tapasya, because we're so conditioned to trying to enjoy this material world and all these different things. So that's the situation. Krishna didn't want us to come, but he let us come, because otherwise there would be no meaning to freedom, minute independence. So now it's as this very verse says, Tanmahayato, by the influence of Maya, all this has taken place, and we've been fearful and suffering in this material world. Buddha, one who is intelligent, Buddha Abhajetam, worships that same Lord that we turned away from. How? Bhakti Aikayesham, with one-pointed bhakti, Guru Devatatma. And seeing the Guru, the connection to Krishna, the personality is connected to Krishna as a very self-unworshipable Lord. So that's the way out in this one verse, how we got here and how we can get out.
Thank you.
All right, text 46. Yavanata udapane sarvatak samplatodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Purport. The rituals and sacrifices mentioned in the Karmakanda division of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. And the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 15:15. The purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relationship with him. The relationship of the living entities with Krishna is also mentioned in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 15.7. The living entities are parts and parcels of Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entity is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.7 as follows. This is spoken by Devahuti to her exalted son, Kapila Dev. I'll say, you say. Oho bata shapachoto gariyan yad jigmagre vartate namatubhyam te pustapaste juhubu sasnaraya brahmanuchu namagrananti yete. O my Lord, a person who is chanting your holy name, although born of a low family like that of a Chandala or dog-eater, is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such a person must have performed all kinds of penances and sacrifices according to Vedic rituals and studied the Vedic literatures many, many times after taking his bath in all the holy places of pilgrimage. Such a person is considered to be the best of the Aryan family. So one must be intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas without being attached to the rituals only, and must not desire to be elevated to the heavenly kingdoms for a better quality of sense gratification. It is not possible for the common man in this age to follow all the rules and regulations of the Vedic rituals, nor is it possible to study all the Vedanta and the Upanishads thoroughly. It requires much time, energy, knowledge, and resources to execute the purpose of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in this age. The best purpose of Vedic culture is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, the deliverer of all fallen souls. When Lord Chaitanya was asked by a great Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, why he, the Lord, was chanting the holy name of the Lord like a sentimentalist instead of studying Vedanta philosophy, the Lord replied that his spiritual master had found him to be a great fool and thus asked him to chant the holy name of the Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. In this age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. Vedanta is the last word in Vedic wisdom, and the author and knower of the Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna. And the highest Vedantist is the great soul who takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the ultimate purpose of all Vedic mysticism. So Prabhupada is very encouraging. And this verse is very encouraging. Aho bata shrapachoto gariyan yajjigvagre means that it's just on the tip of the tongue. So somehow or other they're chanting. So one can, say, well, I was worse than the dog eater. I mean, I always think about, okay, the dog eaters, that's pretty low. But aren't the cow eaters lower? I mean, what's worse, eating a dog or eating a cow? I don't know, they're both pretty degraded. But either one, it's somehow, dancing on the tip of the tongue. In other words, they're not realized, they're not completely absorbed and crying, rolling around. But somehow or other, they're chanting. And such souls, it says here, they must have performed all kinds of austerity, bathed in the holy places, studied the literatures. So the idea is that it's a very, what shall I say, fortuitous and very good. It's good fortune that we're here in the Kali Yuga that Lord Chaitanya appeared in just yesterday. Compared to the ages, you're talking billions of years. Well, this is just like 500 years ago. So basically, we're contemporaries. And the literature is available to us by Prabhupada's efforts, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's and many others. And so we have this great opportunity. And the whole, enterprise that's outlined by the Vedas and all of we don't have to go through all that. We don't have time, we don't have energy, we don't have we don't need to. And rather, the whole thing is short-circuited, if you will, or the shortcut is given, that we can focus on chanting the holy name and then go from there. With the chanting of the holy name, you become attracted to Krishna. You become attracted to know more about Krishna. And if you come into the circle, you read Prabhupada's book, Krishna book, suddenly the whole personality of Krishna becomes available, and you can see how attractive he is. So that it's a concession, if you will, or it's a special blessing in this age. That you know, as I quoted that verse, in this age when there's so many faults and so many difficulties, and health-wise, we got the war coming. You know, I mean, it's just who knows what's going to happen. You know, an earthquake, tsunami, right down the street. So, but if we always chant, you know, the tongue is always working, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Nama. Or we take advantage of these festivals, you know, to chant for hours during the day, you know, and go. I was just hearing this wonderful account, it's very moving, of Ranjan Swami about the devotees in Ukraine. You can check out dandavats.com. And, you know, they're so courageous there. There's in Kiev, I call it Kiev, this huge temple. How was this temple built? They built it themselves. It's not that they hired anyone. They collected, you know, $1 million and built this incredible temple. They had to go. They were going out and they were asking, you know, the guys with the big trucks and the machines, can you help us lift this big concrete slab up, you know, please? And they were so sincere that they would come driving down and they'd come and they'd help them, and gradually the whole thing get built. It's amazing, yatra. There are thousands and thousands of devotees there, you know, and they're all sheltering and trying to survive this craziness. But you know, how are we meant to deal? How are we going to deal with the unpredictable disasters that this age is bringing? You know, if it's not going to be nuclear war, climate change is going on. I just read how the Amazon forest is probably doomed because the crazy guy is, you know, it's cutting it down for the purpose of growing food to feed the cows, to slaughter them and sell them to Americans. The money is there. How do we liquidate it? You know, the only problem is that Amazon forest is important for us breathing. You know, the vegetation gives off oxygen and absorbs carbon dioxide, right? And it's so huge that it makes a difference in the carbon dioxide buildup. So this is the age we live in. And who knows how many days, hours, minutes we have left, you know, to perform bhajan. We should do it very sincerely and take advantage of this opportunity that Krishna is outlining here. The idea, you don't have to worry about the whole reservoir, you know, the whole ocean of the Vedas and try to figure out what's going on. If you know the purpose, you know the ultimate goal, and you have been given this A, B, C, D, E, how to achieve it, let's take advantage of it and become very serious. But there's many verses like this. This is one of the most famous because it's so pertinent to us. Aho badashra pachodogari.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Boo.
So thank you so much for class. This question, like reflecting on that in the spiritual world, does every living entity has human form, or the other species of forms also exist? Like
there's all kinds of forms there, you know. So I mean, there's coward boys, coward girls, and there's also cows and calves, and the wonderful thing is that everyone's fully conscious, you know. Even the cows, even the water.
Pebbles, yeah. People say even the stones, the mountain, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can talk to the stone.
Yeah.
Whether it'll answer, I'm not sure. But yes, it's described. What is that? The description of the spiritual world in the Brahma Samhita is very, you know, Shriya Kanta Padama Purusha Kalpatada Bodhuma Bhumish Chindamanagana Mahi Toyamamatam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Api Vangshi Priyasaki Chidanandam Joti Padamapitadasvajamapicha. Then it goes on. Sayatra Chirabdi Svavadi Sarabib Justice Mahan Namesara Kyoba Vatidini Hityapi Samayak Bade Shweta Dvipam Tamahamiha Golokamitiyam Binandaste Santa Chitifadachara Kitipaye. So he's saying there in the spiritual world, all of the lovers of Krishna are goddesses of fortune. Shriya Kanta, and the lover is Paramapurusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kalpatadavo Dhuma. All the trees are desire trees. All the land is Chintamani. All the water is nectar. There's no talking, singing. Everyone's got to be in tune, as you might as well train up. Okay. Kataganam, and there's no walking and dancing. You see, and one can always hear the flute sound playing. You see, and everything is glowing Chidananda Jyoti with the effulgence of blissful consciousness. Everything is conscious. Prabhupada describes you can go to a tree and get any fruit you want. That's the meaning of desire tree, because they're fully conscious. And he gives the example, just like I can ask you, please bring me some water, bring me some milk. Can you please see if you can find some coconut juice? And if if whatever I ask you, you say, okay, I can do it because you're fully conscious. If I ask some cat or dog or they can't, or inanimate object, so everything is fully conscious there, and they're happy to serve Krishna in that way. There's a need for wonderful land for Krishna to walk on, and for the trees and everything. Even in Boma Vrindavan, the gopis are singing about Krishna entering the forest, and this is in the 35th chapter, one of the songs of the gopis, the Gopi Gita. And they say, Anucharai samanavarnata birya adipura shihivach, and you can just hear one of the gopis playing a drum, Anucharai samanavarnata birya adipura shihivach at the booty vanachadokatitateshu tadandirvena navayati gasi yadahi. So they're in pairs. So the first one says, so Krishna's friends are all singing his glories of him, who seems to be, looks like the Supreme Personality of Godhead surrounded by his energies. They're not saying he is, you see. And as he plays the flute, then he's walking into the forest, and all the trees and the creepers are so ecstatic that Krishna is walking there that they immediately blossom. We've all seen these time-lapse photography where suddenly the flower blooms, or so they're doing it in real time. They suddenly become heavy with the weight of the fruits and the flowers, and they bow down. The limbs go down, and the vines go down, and they're offering obeisances. So the idea is that there's no dead matter here. Here, you got living entities within these dead bodies, and moving things around. But most of it is dead matter. But there, it's all solid spirit, just like Krishna's body. There's no difference between his body and Krishna, between his name and Krishna, you see. So it's a different, and everything is swathed in this blissful aura, Chidananda Jyoti, which you can taste, Krishna doesn't get much sleep. Krishna doesn't get much sleep. He comes, back from the pasturing ground, and his mother's there, and she takes care of. There's also that mood, and then she, puts him to bed. But shortly after that, he gets up and sneaks out and meet the gopis, and they have and then when the sun is about to come up, he sneaks back in to home. And he lays down for a minute, and his mother wakes him up. Time to go do the cows. So when is he sleeping? I don't want to say for sure, because I'm not sure. You'll have to go there. I think. Oh, what's that?
Just a small follow-up.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Prabhu, we know that to go into spiritual world, one has to reach to human form of life by gradual evolutionary process, right?
One has to what?
Reach to the human form of life by gradual evolutionary process to be able to go to spiritual world after leaving the human body, right?
Yeah.
So why it's like that? Because every species exists in spiritual world, even any species from soul.
Because the thing is, because they're in other words, it's a question of the consciousness. So they're really in the consciousness of the dog and everything. They can't be elevated, very rare. I mean, Lord Chaitanya could do it. There's a test. But the point is that they're stuck. It's all a question of consciousness. These are not real human bodies we have. In other words, they're human bodies, but they're reflections of the bodies that are in the material world. It's not like Krishna has a human body. We have Krishna-like bodies. Krishna is the original body with the senses and the two hands and everything, right? And we're imitations. But the lower forms, their consciousness is progressively covered. And it's not generally impossible for them to attain Krishna consciousness. But, you know, they can be purified and blessed and jump up to a human form of life by getting prasadam and so many things. But the whole thing is just a play there. You know, the different forms are there to facilitate the different rasas and the lila and things like that. But here, we're imprisoned in these bodies and we have to elevate slowly. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.